Good morning, all of you. How are you all? Welcome back to your social studies virtual classroom. Today, in this video lesson, we are going to do revision of our history chapter 10, the post-modern period. So, please listen to this video very carefully. So, let's start. History chapter 10, the postmodern period. So in this chapter we are going to study about the kingdoms that conquered the Indian subcontinent or that started establishing their foot or started establishing their kingdoms in the southern part of India after the decline of the Mauryas, then the kingdoms that started establishing their powers in the northern and Deccan part of India also. So we are going to study about all the small kingdoms that emerged after the decline of the Mauryas. That is why this time period is known as the post-Mauryan period. What all happened during the post-Mauryan period. So in this chapter we are going to cover these contents. First is the introduction, then the three important kingdoms of Tamilakam or the Tamil region, economy of the southern economic conditions of the southern kingdoms, the north and the Deccan areas, trade, their religion during the region of the people during that time, then how Buddhism spread to different parts of the India or the world also. Now, Tamilakam or the Tamil region, which today is known as the South India, it lies south of the Krishna River. You can see in this map at the southern, this is the southern part of India. There, three main kingdoms were ruling. They were the Cholas, Cheras, and the Pandyas. So we got the information about these three dynasties from the Sangam literature. That is why this time period in history is also known as the Sangam age. So this Tamilakam period in the history of Tamilakam or the Tamil is known as the Sangam age. The word Sangam means assembly. It was a gathering of Tamil poets and scholars under the rule of the Pandyan kings. So these all Tamil poets and scholars, they used to sit together, they used to assemble together and write poems and books regarding about the rulers. There were three such assemblies that were organized during this time. The works that were written during the first two assembly got lost, and the third, and which is the most important assembly, it was held in Madurai sometime between 100 CE and 250 CE. Over 2000 poems were composed in Tamil during this assembly, third assembly, so which were later compiled into books. These books came to be known as the Sangam literature. It tells us about the society and culture of that period of the Sangam age during that time of history. Now let us learn more about the three kingdoms of Tamilakam or the Tamil region. So the first kingdom is the Cholas. Cholas ruled in the Kaveri Delta. So in this table you can see the region over which they ruled, their capital, their famous rulers and their military conquest and their achievements. So Cholas ruled over the Kaveri Delta. Their capital was Urayur. The most powerful Chola king was Karikala. He fought against the Cheras and the Pandyas, and he even attacked Sri Lanka and occupied a part of it. They even constructed many roads and encouraged trade with other regions. Puhar or Kaveri Patnam was an important port city present in the Cholas region during this period. Now the Cheras, or they are also called Kerala Putras, they ruled over present-day Kerala and some parts of Tamil Nadu. Vanji was their capital. The most famous Chera king was Nedun Chera Ladan. He fought against Cholas and the Pandyas. He even captured a Roman fleet. He also encouraged trade. They traded with Rome and Egypt also. Then the third and the most powerful were the Pandyas. Out of these three, Pandyas were the most powerful one. They controlled the region around Madurai. So the kingdom was ruled by a woman who had a large army. This was according to Megasthenes. He used to think that it was ruled by a woman. Nedunshazian, he was the powerful ruler of Pandya dynasty. He defeated both Cholas and the Cheras. So that is why Pandyas are the most powerful among these three southern kingdoms. Then the third Sangam at Madurai was also held during his rule only. This kingdom was famous for pearls. It exported pearls to Rome also. So, among the Cholas, the Cheras, and the Pandyas, these three were ruling in the southern part of India after the decline of the Mauryas. So, among these three, Pandyas were the most powerful one. The economic conditions of these southern kingdoms. So, the kingdoms of the south were very rich and they had abundant natural resources with a flourishing trade. Land was an important source of revenue during that time. The money that was collected was used to maintain army, ensure good administration, to give grants to poets and scholars. Then there were trade earned a lot of money for the South Indian kingdoms. Then spices like pepper, gold, precious stone, pearls, fine muslin, silk cloth, these were exported to Europe, West Asia, Southeast Asia and China. Roman ships visited the port of Arikamedu to exchange goods. Arikamedu was a very famous port for the trading relation with different parts of the world. So during this time, trade was flourishing and trade earned a lot of money for the South Indian kingdoms. Now let us learn about the small kingdoms present in North and the Deccan area. So, while the time in the Sangam literature was being written in the south, what was happening in the north? So, many tribes from Central Asia were trying to enter into India during that time. So, there were Indo Greeks, Bactrian Greeks, Shakas, Pallavas, and the Kushanas. So, among all these, the Kushanas established a powerful empire in the north part of India. They defeated Indo Greeks, Pallavas, and Shakas. So, after defeating the Indo Greeks, the Pallavas, they established themselves in the region around Taxila and Peshawar. Later, they occupied Kashmir, parts of Punjab, parts of Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh also. And the Satwahanas, who are also known as Andhras, they started ruling over the Deccan area. Now, Kanishka was the greatest Kushana ruler. He became king in 78 CE. Purushapura was the capital of his empire. He was deeply influenced by the Buddhism religion. Mathura was an important city during his rule. Then he organized the Fourth Buddhist Council, where many important decisions are taken. While in the Satavahanas, Pratisthana was their capital city, then Sri Satkarni was the most powerful ruler of them. He fought against other kingdoms and enlarged his empire. This was he controlled over the Deccan area, that is just above the southern area. So you can look in these two maps. At the left side, this is the Kushana Empire, the area that was controlled by the Kushana. So you can see whole of North India was controlled by the Kushana during that time after the decline of Mauryas. And in the right map, you can see this was the Satvahana dynasty. They were ruling over the Deccan Empire, which Deccan area, which is just above the southern part of India. So these two became great powers after the decline of the Mauryan empires. Trade flourished a lot during this time period. The Indo-Greeks, Kushanas, Satvahanas, they issued a large number of gold, silver and copper coins. Important ports such as Broch, Kalyan, Sopara, these were the main centers of trade with other parts of the countries. Then development of new crafts also promoted trade. Taxila, Ujjain, Mathura prospered because of trade. Because of this trade, this India came into contact with distant lands in the world. So, Silk Route was very popular among the traders. It was called Silk Route because silk was the main item that was traded with that route. Chinese were the first to make silk. Chinese traders carried silk to other parts of the world through this route only. They used this route, they used this path. Through this route, they exported pearls, textiles, ivory, silk, precious stones, imported glass, copper, tin, and gold. Many rulers they tried to control the Silk Route by protecting the traders from attacks by robbers, and in return, what they want? In return, the traders will give them a part of their profit. So this was profitable for both the rulers. They used to protect these traders from the attackers, from the robbers. They follow this path to travel to India, to travel to different parts of the world. So that is why this Silk Road or the Silk Route, you can say, was very famous for trading silk item, and it was a very famous trade route. Buddhism and Hinduism, these were the most widely followed religions during that time. Buddhism was divided into two sects, Hinayana and Mahayana. Hinayana was the earlier and the simpler form of Buddhism, which people used to follow from the past time. Then Mahayana was the new form, which consists of many rituals, ceremonies, and it's a very complicated form. So rulers who followed Buddhism were Manendra, that was an Indo-Greek ruler. Kanishka, they have popularized Buddhism to different parts of the world. Then famous Buddhism centers were Nagarjuna Konda and Amravati. Satvahanas, most of the Satvahana rulers, they were Hindus, so they follow Hinduism religion. They worship God Vishnu, Shiva, and Durga. Hinduism have undergone many changes, like less importance was given to ritual ceremonies and sacrifices. Emphasis was mostly on devotion to a god or bhakti. Then teachings of Bhagavad Gita were popularized. Because of India's contact with other land increased because of the trade, so spread of Buddhism also become popular during that time. So important centers of Buddhism was the Afghanistan. It became an important centers of Buddhism. Then region of Bactria and Gandhara also came under Buddhist influence. So the first step in the spread of Buddhism was taken by the Ashoka, Emperor Ashoka. He sent missionaries to many places in Central Asia to popularize Buddhism during his rule. He even sent his son Mahendra and daughter Sanghamitra to Sri Lanka to spread Buddhism. Famous Buddhist writings from Sri Lanka were Dipvamasa and Mahavamsa. Kanishka introduced Mahayana Buddhism in Central Asia. Then they also spread it to China and Japan. Many Chinese travelers, Fa Hin, Hyun Tisang, Ai Tisang, they used to visit India to study Buddhism, to attain knowledge about Buddhism. So the famous Chinese pilgrims they visited India during this time. Then great stupa was constructed, which was totally dedicated for the worshipping of Lord Buddha. Slowly and slowly, other countries also get influenced by Buddhism. They were the Sumatra, Java, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia. So they all come under the influence of Buddhism. So in all, because of all these steps, this Buddhism spread to different parts of the world. So, this is the last topic of this chapter. What all we have studied in this chapter: the Cholas, the Cheras, and the Pandyas, they ruled in the southern India. Sangam literature was the main source of their information. Then, Indo Greeks, Shakas, Pallavas, and Kushanas, they ruled in the northern India, and the Satavahanas ruled in the Deccan. Then Kanishka was the king of Kushana dynasty. He popularized Buddhism. Trade flourished during this period. Then Silk Route was very popular during this time. Hinduism and Buddhism were two main religions. Okay, then Buddhism spread to different parts of the world. This was largely because of missionaries, pilgrims, travelers. Silk Route also helped to promote Buddhism to different parts of the world, especially in Central Asia and China. I hope this revision will prove beneficial for you. So thank you for watching my video and study well. All the best for your exam, student.